Tene tatanda tongpo ngadrudele. Hyudutang, tene chitang tatanda. Chinamba tongpe chula. Mubasi, Zendrushi, Kawaji, Gomja, Chuni, tene nawala, tuji chi hyugayala. Tene tiji so, sonde dojin chungtumang dempeka sala. Tepatang muguji ne sorwata nangruchi.
I'd like to wish everyone good morning. And I'd also like to thank you all because you have come here with great faith out of the Dharma. You've had faith in the Dharma, interest, you have been diligent, you have undergone some difficulties to do this, and you've come and you've meditated, you have listened to the Dharma. So I'd like to thank you all very much for that. And following that, we will recite the short Vajradhara lineage prayer. And as we recite this prayer, please pray with great faith and devotion. Doje chanje nelo narodam marba
The earth is perfumed with scented water and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. Imagining this as the Buddha realm, I offer it so that all beings may enjoy that pure realm. In accordance with the capabilities and the diverse aspirations of sentient beings, I ask you to turn the wheel of Dharma, of the greater, lesser, or conventional vehicles.
Tene ta kasing control tangpo kasing capsula tene ngarancho ge chige nawa te nang sem le jwa song yo re la tene chi nawa te nang sem la tene jwa te la tene sem yuldu nawa ta tene yuldi sen ji ongi nawa yimba cheban ra je Kamdar sunga re la, teni tiya jay, te se kohlawe ki cherdo sunga re. Te la yang, kasing kanchu le, te la yang, non dong, non yul che par che gu, so. Nawa senki je do, non yul senki je ka namba nyi yuwa re. Te ke che par te che gu re. Te ma che na, somne ta te yapo che gugre ma to te ma che na kunchin chimbo singin de kunchin longchin rang jang mi hi pa ta tangji sen yin lo no na song dan la hin do mon jian mon pen sin chol hin ha jang tal zhong ji ta ge lungi de bong he sung ge de tene ta dan da tene kahi ge tene tamji semyin segi yore re te ina te nawa tang nonyul tong noa po namba som jetan la shindu momba tim ha mago ware tene te noa mihi tamji semyin se ke lang na tene jen mangbon ju gre la pensin cholki hajang talwa jen mangbo yung yore tene te kyungzi sena ta tanda nguma kapsula tene jay palan chongkin rabu jay na tene te jabo rabu kuba rabu tsege yor lumbo palan se ten kapkala tene tsege yor re la te hira yendin mepa hirap mepa tenzu ke palan choge yor re se tsege yor re te yina ya ta tanda perna yang tutup chenpo kahi ke teni tati kisa shatumi kisawa imbichirna perna saraha ngurgana songna mahe chonghin semdan gamsi teni mahe so zuwana teni ta jagane mahe ta kapkala tesa mahe kahi chong teni ti koyang bochung kapla teni chaja chimpo gam yupa ta kong ngurgana ya mahe chonghin teni semden gam se teni songyo ware la te hachang dupo imbe chaba yo mare te ina yang yonsu trakpa ka ondo se na teni palangza se du kupa nrabo che imba la zi yo ne teni palangza lumbu galo te pong he song ne ta te hirab me pe ke kechare he ta kong ke tamchi sen ma imba teni songyo yo ware chi sumba tar lape chudu ke yurdo churba zuda la soba noa zombonda no yur yen se ta number hiba chu tho number hiba chu tho se du make a number hiba zun thong se ba make a number hiba datu par se ba nawen number hiba tsor se ba nine number hiba ro nyon se ba ke number hiba tene reason nyon se ba luji number hiba tene medring godring number to ba tela yi number hiba tela chu tho number hiba chu tho se ge warela tati sosu ki yul tati make number hibi ki yul zukta zula ta teni nawe number hibi ki yul dala ni nae number hibi ki tretsor ke number hibi ki ro nyon luji number hibi ki riza nyon teni sanje iji number hibi ki ngola teni nambo namba yul namba mambo charne somlo mambo tangi yorela tati tangwa te tanda noa zombonde tati chirulge noa te chirula draji yepe nambanda bota zukji yepe nambanda bota treji yepe nambanda bota la kare resina ti noyul segre ti noyul te la tene yul yidon ore tati noyul segre taga zomsina mare
de la tu ni de ane nawa namsum kaso de Chogyam Rinpoche de la ane nawa po de nawa namsum de la ane nawa na yu da nawa po sumra kasan warana se nawa na yu da ane tenjagi nawa
ya nawa po insa de he somsina
sa nasa
nawa da na yul da chi nawa di no yul da tini di nawa po
de chi che de je so la ane nawa champo se de nawa champo ba de shukushiba yuten
zudala suba nawa champo
la
de semgang wala hyar de bi nawa ji yunjira ba ta zu thong di nawa champo sing
nawa champo la So picking up where we left off yesterday we discussed how all external appearances arise out of mind. So all external appearances arise out of mind. So this means that all external appearances arise out of the support of the mind or on the support of the mind. And so here there are two ways we can talk about it. We can say that explain all external appearance as being mind. Or we can say that all external appearances arise out of the power of the mind. And here, in order to make the presentation easier to understand, we present it in the second way. So here the presentation is that everything arises out of the power of the mind in order to make it easier to understand. And so here, in this context, we must distinguish between appearance and the perceived object. So we have the things that appear, and there are the objects that we perceive, the appearing objects or the perceived objects. And we need to really be we need to classify them, or we need to distinguish them properly. Without doing that, so if we do not distinguish them properly, it'll be just like the great omniscient one stated. And here the great omniscient one is the great Longchen Rabjampa. And here it says, ignorant people claim that everything is mind. They are deluded about the three types of appearance, have many shortcomings, mix things up, and over-exaggerate. Meditators give up such unwholesome ways. And so here, in saying this, there are some people who say that everything is mind. So they say that everything is appears. They say that everything that appears. So they're deluded or they're confused. They don't understand the three types of appearances. And the three types of appearances are the appearance, the perceived object, and the perceiver, or the person to whom it appears, really. So the appearance, the perceived object, and the person to whom it appears. Now, if we say that all of these appearances, that all of this is just mind, then there are a lot of shortcomings. There are a lot of faults that mix things up and you over-exaggerate. It means that there are a lot of absurd consequences that come out of this. And so this is not logically tenable. It makes a lot of absurd consequences. And so it says, meditators give up such unwholesome ways. Another way of translating this would be to say, meditator, give up the unwholesome ways of herdsmen. And so there are herdsmen who would, herdsmen is generally, the general stereotype about cowherds is that they are not particularly intelligent. They're rather dull-witted, stupid people. And so this is generally how cowherds are generally understood. We think of them as not being very educated, not being very smart. Of course, that's the stereotype, but there are lots of examples, of course, of otherwise than that. There are a lot of great Mahasiddhas, the great meditators, Mahasiddhas from India, who would lead very simple, unelaborate lives, and they would just do things like herd cows. Like, for instance, Saraha. Saraha said in one of his songs that, while herding buffalo, I look at the meaning of the mind, or meditate on the meaning of the mind. So while herding buffalo, I meditate on the meaning of the mind. And so he meditated on the meaning. He had a lot of, he took care of buffalo for his living. And while he had the buffalo, he was a herdsman. He kept them and he would let them out. And then while they'd go off and do their thing, he would just meditate, do the Mahamudra meditation while doing that. So it does not necessarily mean that if you are a cowherd that you are stupid. This is not necessarily the case, but it is generally thought. It is generally thought that cowherds are rather dull and foolish people, it is thought. And so here it is saying that we should give up these foolish ways of the cowherds. And so it is saying that we should give up the ways that are not too wise, that are not too intelligent, and give them up. And so here it says that then the mere presence of visible forms, sounds, and so forth, that are the objects of the six types of consciousness, are called perceived objects. And so here, when we say the mere presence of visible forms, and so there is just the appearance of a form before the eye. There is the appearance of a sound to the ear. There is the scent that appears to the nose. There is the taste that appears to the tongue. There is the touch that appears to the body. And there are all the thoughts of everything of everything possible that appear to the mind. And so each of the different faculties, each of the different consciousnesses has its own object, and the just mere appearance of that is the perceived object, the mere appearance of the form in the eye. The eye will perceive the form. The ear will perceive a sound. The nose can perceive a scent. the tongue can perceive a taste, the body can perceive a touch, and the mind can can take all of the different sorts of thoughts, all the thoughts of any different type of object at all, and they just sort of merely appear when they just merely are present before the object, and that mere appearance is what we're talking about. And so there is the aspect of a sound appearing to the ear. There's the aspect of form appearing to the eye, and the mere aspect of a scent appearing to the nose, the mere aspect of a taste appearing to the tongue, the mere aspect of a touch appearing to the body, and so forth. And so this mere aspect of something appearing, that is what we mean as the perceived object.
Tene ta tela tene ta te tanda noyul sigrela. Tene tela noa ta noyul ni yore. Noyul sinking te tanda tsudu ki yodu churba zuda la sopa la kogi yore. Zuda la sopa tela tene tene kaka la yul yidu huar de yul yidu huar re sambata puta. Tene yul yidu huar la chotni te yapu do zone tela cho yin jewata. 다 가힐라 근데 이도 뭐래 som반다고 제기요 이도 뭐 때라 다 야부 문도 sombe 동 해당다고다 때라 문제 봐 용기요 티니야 다 단다 이도 와요 마이 이도 뭐 와요 마이 바르발라 티니제 대가가도 som반다고다 때라 가그문도 som바 가야 메바 때무바데 제제야 메바데 Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche tati tela tene tangbo yido hongwa re yido mongwa re parma re sombe namto tela tene chakpa tang dangwa tang temuga nongwa tete yungi yuwa re la ti Chogyam Trungpa ti kana khargi yuwa re sena senji tente khargi yuwa re la senji tente kharwa yinbe sena ti nongwa yin ti rong senji khargo re higu tati 디기 초동 온순가데 치르르기 열라 요마레 낭게 샘게 된데 요레 센지 차르고르 히구
And so in this way we have the perceived object. And we have the perceived object and we have the appearance. We have these two different types of things. And so the perceived object are just the objects that appear to this to the six collections of consciousness, and then because of those objects appearing to the six collections of consciousness, we see something pleasant and we feel attachment to it. We think, oh, that's good, and then we want it and we get attached to it, or we see something unpleasant and we think, that's no good, I don't want it. We feel aversion to it. We don't want it. And then there is something that is, there are feelings, sometimes we have something that's neither pleasant nor unpleasant, and we don't either think, oh, that's good, or we don't think that's bad. We don't like, we don't dislike it. We just have neither of those. We just have plain old delusion. Here it's translated as an indifferent feeling. It's just like delusion, not knowing it. And so those are the thoughts of this. So they're the thoughts of attachment, anger, or delusion based upon the perceived object are appearances. And so these thoughts of the attachment or of aversion, anger or aversion, and delusion they are just thoughts, and these are appearance. Now, where do these appear? Where do these thoughts appear? They appear in our mind. It is in our mind that these thoughts of attachment, aversion, or delusion appear. And so these three different types of thoughts, these different types of thoughts of attachment, aversion, and delusion, are not in the external object. They are in the mind. And so in this way, the appearances, the thoughts of attachment, aversion, and delusion, are in our own mind.
Tene ta tela tene ta tige karisunga yoresena noyul kandirin pata nawa kandi imba di ni sosolo sungare nongyul singin de chi zudala so pala kogi warela tene nang namto da nang nyemon bata nang chorwa tela noya sungi ware la ta te soso hinche onde nongyul zudala so bana semje only chungwa ma semje only chungke sem main par senjin chintin je tendel zamle Denver to member he go so sunditela. Tati no adon no yini de kakatsi gube. Junsin kantere se na no sen re. No atanti sen imbal pe ngaranzo hako re. Tati gabo chunata gabo mai ba hedang jewata. Tene ta namto mandawa kan harna chorwa de dug no kan harna semla hargi yorela. Tesen imbala tene pe tene hi lawa tene repeat aji si because la hi lawa te yendo sem jetendo gomb kabla ya gom lawa ndo yo rela tene chirul ge no ande chirul ge no zuda la so ba te sen yimbala tene sentampe ripa tenzu ge sen yimba ta tene penna mulam je no ge penda bola som ta na tene te si tusam go kwadab kapsala ko lawa ndabo yore rete ina ya tinguni nyamsu nyo kapsala chi no ande sen re somni ngasom to tene ngasom lamdo si ne gomya tel te si kale yore rela junsin teacher na kamdar no ato no yini de susu chi no yu de sem mare no ate sem re tini tanda no ato chuton ji sen zong yin sun ji de no ate sen yin ba la song re la tini no yin ba la song re.
And so here what it's saying is that it is saying what the perceived object is. It is saying what the appearance is. And so the perceived object are the external things, the external objects. And then the appearance is the thoughts, the afflictions, the emotions, the feelings that appear in our mind. And so these two are differentiated. So we need to differentiate these two. So perceived objects, such as form, sound, and so forth, have appeared due to mind, but they are not mind. And so they are the shared appearance of sentient beings and do not possess any true existence besides being phenomena of dependent origination. So here, the reason that we need to distinguish between appearances and perceived object is that it is easy to understand that the appearances, that is the thoughts and feelings and so forth, it is easy to understand that these are mind. It is easy to understand that when we feel pleasure, that is obviously mind, or when we feel something that is not pleasure, when we feel aversion, that is easy to see that it is mind, or it is easy to see that that thoughts, that the various different types of thoughts, or that the feelings of pleasure or pain are mind. That is very easy to know, and it is very easy to prove it through logic. It is very easy to meditate upon in our mind. However, when we think about external things and we think that these are mind, well, we can prove it by the logics of the mind-only school. We can follow the logics of the mind-only school to prove that external things are mind. We can talk about the examples of the dream and so forth to come to understand that things are mind. And so in this respect, it is easy to understand, but to really have an experience of it is much more difficult. And to really think everything out there is mind, if we think that it is difficult to take that as the path of direct perception. It is difficult to really directly perceive that. And so it is difficult to directly meditate upon that. And so that is why here in this teaching we are differentiating between the appearance, that is the thoughts and the feelings and so forth, and the perceived objects, the six things. And so here, what is being taught is that the perceived object is not mind, but the mind itself, but the perceptions are mind.
Tene, Sason. Tene, Tatela, Yang, Tanda, Naranso, Kanga, Nyoma, Chukun Zupsuk, the Vajrayana, Chukun Zupsuk, Nala, Tangbo, Tawanga, some. Tene, the Tawanga, the Netu, ne Tawa, Jotu, ne Tawa, Nontu, ne Tawa, Lucen J. Tadi, the Tawa. Nenju J Tadi the Tawa, Lucen J Tadi the Tawa, Namanga song you banane. Neto ne Tawa ya, de tas Somotang Gomna, Le Lawa W. Judo ne Tawa ya, Le Lavo W. Tini Nonto ne Tawa Sinkitella, de Kande Sina Kalikavota, Gom Somotang Capsula, ya Kalikavo W. La. Tene tatela chig no ande tig junsen de kandi rindu dana tene chig no ande jigba yin so tangaran so me nga tho dan ji se ge te na chig no jig ta ge yo ti chig no te chilo le yo re nang hi ba mare so be ta kham ba cha ro yo re la teaching tene te gombe kapsala ya te se tab ma de wanda bo tene me mambu ga nonto ne tawa te pe kalendo senkindo nonto ne tawa khahi kale te chom mandu senkinda bo tige te kwa chong re ma to nyom ga de ni nonto ne tawa te yapo je la ma chi banda bo tene nguma harang keche ju chom ihi janso la nonto ne tawa te kalendo ga se tu o kale yebe ma si tel ko ju me bare Did say it all? I tell Coach Meba you married in a theater.
Okay. When we look at the teachings of the ninth Karmapa in the pointing out the Dharmakara, there are the 5 sections on the view. The 5 sections on the view are viewing the mind in stillness, viewing the mind in motion, viewing the mind in relation to appearances, viewing whether the moving and still minds are the same or different, and viewing whether mind and body are the same and different. There are these 5 different sections. And of these 5 different sections, generally people say that viewing the mind in stillness is easy. It's easy to think about, it's easy to meditate upon, it's easy to get an experience of it. Viewing the mind in motion is also pretty easy, but when you get to viewing the mind in relation to appearances, then it gets a bit difficult. In all respects, it's difficult. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult to meditate upon. It's difficult to get any experience of this. Saying that external things are all mind is really hard to do that. And what is the reason for that? Well, the reason is that when there is an external thing that appears, it'll appear pretty much the same, whether you have 5 people looking at it, or 6 people, or 7 or 8 people looking at it. Everyone looking at it is going to say it's pretty much the same sort of thing. They're going to see one sort of thing. And so in that way, we think there's one thing that we're all looking at, is what they think. And so it doesn't seem like it's mind at all. That's not the mind. And so we have this real tendency, this habitual tendency not to see it that way. And so when we come to actually meditate upon it, it is not easy to meditate upon it. And so a lot of people have said to me that meditating upon the mind in experience is really difficult. Some people say that, oh, it's not that difficult, but really when you look at it, that's just, understanding. It's not actual experience. They haven't really developed experience within their beings of it. They just have a mere understanding of it. I once had a conversation with Yeshe Gyatso. Yeshe Gyatso is Khenpo Karthar's translator. And I asked him, well, do you find it difficult to meditate upon the mind and appearance? And he said, oh, that's really difficult. There's no way to understand that at all. And so, yeah, it's not just a little, it's really difficult.
Tene ta tela zo kandirin du sena ngaran so ge yul jik la ta tanda na ngmani kombe pocha ge perna menga rabu jik tana ngubu jik la joksen rabu jik la ta na ti jo si jik thong ge ku ge tien thong ge yo mu ge tien thong ge yo nge ge tien thong ge yo re samba rabu yo re yina nguni sen la khaw ka so kha kha rabu susu sen la kha ge yo re ma to chirula yo mare la perna ngaranso television ngayo na te kanga channel tik ne na kipa na yin chege yolge goba nang kangba dinang drinking me tinzu kipa na yin chage yo te paju ge television na 향king ti chuju lai de chage yo ti nguni kipa re sin kipa mare gam susu na susu chage yo ma to kipa mare la pe te yendo ngaran chu gon no la ya tine no susu chage yo re de yina ya ngarang ge sen la char de pati yin la chage yo ma yin la char de pati ngarang la chage yo mare la teacher na chirang thong so isine tregu ge ma to tine ngarang uni ina tine ta ngarang thong so dige thong yo re samba da yo re ina in thong yo mare la teacher na kanga no ate sen re te ina yang kap ndana la ta ti no ate sen no yul te sen mai ba nda bu je tine kanga ta tanda sen ge ngo la char de choro wa don nam to te sen yin ba la yong su zhe min da bu yin be chena tine te sen re si so yin sa re.
So when we look at it, when we have one thing, and we have because of our habitual tendencies, when we look at one thing. So if you have five different people looking at one thing, five different people looking at the table, we're all going to say, "There's one table there. He sees it, she sees it, I see it," and so. We all see the same table, but actually, if you really look at it, really what's happening, the appearance, it's all different in all of our minds. We each have our own appearance of the thing, and it's not really out there. For example, if you have 5 televisions, and on all the 5 televisions are all tuned to the same channel, and you look at it, they all look exactly the same. They all are showing the same scenery outside or the same inside of the house. The same person is walking across it. And we'd say that, well, the television on that side and the television on this side are showing the same thing. But actually, are they really the same? No, they're not the same. The ones over here, the ones over there. They're not the same. And so as in this example, many people can see something. Something can appear to many different people, but the image that it is that appears to me, what I see, doesn't necessarily appear to someone else. And what appears to someone else doesn't necessarily appear to me. And so for that reason, we sometimes have to say, "Hey, did you see that?" Now, if we all saw exactly the same, if we all had the same appearance, then we wouldn't have to say, "Hey, did you see that?" I saw it, so you must have seen it too. But that's not how it is. And so, in that way, these appearances are mind. But here, in this teaching, in order to make it easy to understand, we're saying that the appearant objects are not mind. This is just to make it easy to understand. Appearing objects are not mind. But the feelings, the thoughts, the things that arise in our mind, there's absolutely no dispute that those are actually mind. And so that is what we're talking about here in this teaching when we say that appearances are mind.
다 되게 단다 노 셈레라 다 되지소 다 간데 땡게 요르세나 되니 셈동바 다 단다 가세 단다 니ren jansu놈도 손나 노 셈동바 송아레라 다 되게 셈동바 데라 리피트 두비 줄제야 요르라 되니 베 리피트 두바 마인 바 냠뇽 그때니 따와제 니 요르라 단다 리피트 두바 마레 pen Peshawag Tana Sante Ranging Matubari Tombani Res Dugri repeat Ta Tanda Dikap Nala Karisungi Yoresena Tini Pe Nyomyong Teni Tawarela Nyomyong Teni Sam Tomba in Balatayong to Tela Ta Tela Theater se Cap Nala Sona Theater Sam Tingoy Tratsini Kong Sensi Yin Chi Papa Parji Sha Nang Ruba Danga Ne To Kong Ni Togu Sitting Kana Negitu the same day you do. That's our Tawa Kanga Tawa Sanjay Yorella. Ti Yapa the Koran Kavato go try Zemolandoga, Ti Wotanandoga. Tenite ngoi trag zemoni kombe sensi semu zemo padala teni kangala kavatu sente yona tate nanando sonsonti ni goge yorela te kavatu yapu tane teni tela repeat oji sepata nguni tawa ni yorela repeat oji sepatela yang tesi koa ndaboja somlota te tende mare tanda kola tekala tane 답변 나랑게 배경이 와래라 지울 협종 징킹 지울 협종 징킹 그 가시게 지우디 가바두고도 지우디 또 가래사고도 지우디 효기야 가둘랑고도 제모마 총라 간든도고도 야부 따네 로종세게 와래 베대견도 나랑 속에 리피터지 제바마인 바센티 강발라디 인도 ngoladi indu kabadidu nang lubu natbajela yore chitbajela yore yabu tagu kreso.
And so here the appearances are a mind, and when we say the appearance is mind, then after this we talk about the mind being empty. This is, as we mentioned yesterday, in terms of the ocean of certainty, where it says that appearances are mind and mind is empty. This is the same thing. And so when we talk about the mind being empty, we can prove this through logic. Or we can, rather than prove it through logic, we can generate experience of it. And so there are two different ways of doing it. And so when we talk about proving it through logic, this is the way that a scholar would approach it. The scholar would say, oh, the mind, it cannot be established as anything. It can't be proven. It is empty. But here we are not talking about that. We're talking about developing experience by looking in relation to our experience, by looking at the mind and looking to see how the mind is empty. And so here it says, you should now examine where this mind dwells. From the top of the hair on your head to the nails on your toes, from the outer layer of skin, the flesh in between, to the bones, the 5 organs, and the senses within. So you should now examine that. And so this mind, we need to look at where this mind is. And so we think to ourselves, oh, there's mind. And this mind is the root of everything. It's the root of all appearances. But where is it that this mind is? How does it exist? So is it something, where is it? Is it in the tip of our hair on our head? Is it somewhere below that? Is it somewhere between? Where is it? We need to look everywhere, from the tips of our hair on our head to the tips of our toenails. We need to look and see, where is the mind? Is it here? Is it there? And we need to really look well. And this is something where we are not looking with logic. We are not using logic to prove this. Rather, we are actually looking. We're actually looking. And so here, if we use logic, then we will come up with an understanding of it. But that is not what we are doing here. Here, we are looking at it directly. There's an example I sometimes give of it. It's like if we are an ornithologist. If we are studying birds, in other words. If we are an ornithologist, then some ornithologists will go outside and study birds, and they will just look. Well, where did the bird fly to? When did the bird go? What sort of pebbles does the bird eat? When does the bird leave its nest in the morning? When does the bird come back to its nest? In the evening. And they actually go and they look and they see, what is it that this bird is doing? And so just like these ornithologists, we need to look at our mind and we need to see, where is the mind? Is the mind in our feet? Is it in our head? Where is it? What is it like? Is it something that is inside? Or is it something that it is outside? And so we need to look and try to see.
Tene ta tela ta kapsala khana ne topiche se ja parchiri ngola ne pe parchiri nyela ne serians ta ti kapsala khonge jada pe nyela sentri khahe sentri no la tene ti len ja pe cholte suare la tene ja parchiri chi se na konsola serig lojongte si ya bayin bitsna lebala negre son ngola negdo si len pro imbadado tene pe parchiri chi nyela ningala yore seria te ngi pa me te nguni ngola ne pa ta nyela ne pe ngi pa yo mare kyola risi kyori horo tene kyola re na tina chorwa te levere kombental risi kontel soso horwa kana ina chorwa te on senti namdo te atana rogi yore la tene ti sasha te la nguni ngola ne pe ngi pa yo mare ngala ne pe ngi pa yo mare la tati lupu nongo on tsena tene lupu chinongo on tsena ta kapkala lupu nang yosa mare chela tene rentong do tene chene ke tapa kogo tene songlo mambo hyarga do tanda sasha yuldu mangbo la songlo kogo do sona chilo le yore sona chilo la yo mare time ti chilolan rogi yo mare nang luji taindo yo aresena luji taindo yo tini lu kana te me par san khanne ngi ba yo mare ta ti che yulji taina yo mare nang luji taina yo mare ti parta namka tomba la yo aresena tena ya menebe ti sem koran nesa ya meba thoche go ta yapo ta na sente anandanandu samba hiro yo mare.
And so when investigating the dwelling place of mind, most Chinese will claim that it abides in the head. Most Tibetans will say that it dwells in the heart. And so when we look and we try to see where is it, there are instruction manuals on the mind from both China and Tibet. And this is giving a response to some things that they say in those. And so when here it says most Chinese, Chinese at that point had some scientific education. And so they would say that the mind is in the brain, the mind is in the head. So that's what most Chinese would claim. Well, Tibetans would say it's in the heart. So that's what they would say, but neither one is sure. So it's not definitely in either place, because when you, if you look for wherever it is, if you can't find it. Wherever you think about something, then the mind goes right there. Because when you touch the top of the head, the mind seems to leap there. So if you touch your head, if you have a feeling on your head, your mind goes right there, and it's as if your mind is right there. Or when you touch the bottom of your feet, then the mind seems to jump there. So there is a feeling down there and the mind goes there, the thoughts go there. So you can't definitely say that it's in one place or the other. You can't definitely say, oh, it's in the head. You can't definitely say, oh, it's in the heart. There's no real definite certain place where the mind is. And so then also you might think, well, sometimes it seems like, and so the mind has no fixed place. And it says also, it dwells in neither outer objects nor inside the body. And so sometimes you think, well, the mind sometimes seems like it's out there, outside someplace. We see all these things outside. We see mountains, or we hear echoes off of cliffs, or we have all these different thoughts of different places, and the mind seems to go to those places when we think about them. And then when the mind, and so it's as if it goes there when we think about it, but when we think about it, actually the mind it isn't really outside of outside of us either. So it doesn't really dwell in outer objects, nor does it dwell someplace in the body. If we look, is it in the body? We can't find any places that it is. Well, so then you might think, well, if it's not in the body and it's not outside the body, then it must be somewhere in between. But if you can't look, you can't find it. You can't, nor in the empty space in between. So the mind isn't really in the space between the inside and the outside, and so we must become certain that it has no dwelling place. We need to actually be certain, really know well that it's not, that there's no real place that we can say, oh, that's where it is.
Tene tatela tene nesa yo marila nesa ke yena nesi chino parsam to nenkin jik tadi konyen tene ti nesa te da nenkin ti ni jik re do tadi re jik yena chi yul don non yul chi yul don non yul pirndip don jurdu yen chi yul don nang yul ni la pirndip don jurdu yen sem jong tedaran jurgu bi minti la nesa tan nenkin tari ina tati bi sem di ngo ye yenam teni ti sem di nderi tati nesa dnala nenkin ti sem di ndende jinto samba je ke yenam mepa ke yen yena tati yena yeb don karo kongrung ke ye gube yeb don karo kongyung tongju mebe tati do yepa mai teni ti nguni tati lezi cholni Tani, Nyamsu, Nyone, Tende Chebe Kapla, Tene Che, Ngupo Che, Yutna, Nesa, Sajan, Danala Negindo, Nenking, Hipati, Ngotin, Tende Jindo, Somni, Samtin, Tende Jindo, Somni, Nyeju Yapaje, Tonju Yapaje, Yore, Gugi Yorela, Tene, Yomare.
And so in this way, you must become certain that it has no dwelling place. There's no dwelling place for the mind. But if your mind were to have a dwelling place, if your mind had a dwelling place, what are the outer, inner, and middle aspects of this dwelling place? What is its outside like, or its inside, or what is it like? Is it identical with or different from the dweller? So are they the same thing, or are they different? And so then, if they are identical, since there is increase or decrease, or change and alteration in outer objects and within the body, your mind would change in the very same way. And so, outside things change. They get bigger, they get smaller, or they change and alter in various different ways. And if they were the same, then the mind would get bigger and smaller and change and alter in the same ways. So it is illogical to think that they are identical. They cannot be the same. But if they are different, then is the essence of this different mind something that exists or not? And so there's the mind, and we can say, okay, this is the essence of the mind. Is it something that really exists? Does it possess an identifiable essence or not? If it does exist, then at least it should have then it should at least have a shape and color. And so if there is an identifiable essence to the mind, then it should have some sort of a shape or a color. But since there is no shape or color, it does not unilaterally exist. And so here, if we look at our mind and try to see what it is, really, if we look at it and come to the experience, then really, if there were something, if there actually were a place that it would stay, there would have to be a place that it stayed. There would have to be something that stayed there, a mind that stayed there. And we have to be able to say, oh, that's what it is. We'd say, oh, here's where the mind's staying. But we can't actually say, this is where the mind's staying. We can't actually say, this is where we're seeing the mind. There's nothing that we can say like that.
Tene ta teacher na ta je do yepa mai si tanguni tindi do yomare semti yomare tene yona ngubu ge nambala tongu gre tat kamder yeb don khadu sumare yeb don khadu yepa yena yeb don khadu dindindu sinken tonya yomare yeb don khadu khaya yomare te yena ngubu khora indi ji yore sinki je ya tonya yomare teacher na semti yomare Tati tanda kondo he patabu on the sena tene no sem tomba sena tene sen tomba lo ngote pare la sen di yomare ta te tinguni te song long go ne dru yaba kona mare rip go ne dru yaba kona mare ngaran chu nyamnyong ge te ni ta ne kaba do kandri do ta ka so lo ko thoya me pa khaya ma do me pare teacher na sem tomba re 다 될라 tomba hundu sigarela tomba hundu sedu tela 다 원나 메바레 다 센데 자니 메바레 요마레 가야 요마레 다 코란 토야 요마레 녀야 요마레 코 메바레 세나 메바 마레 메바 마이 바드 칸레신 아난다나라 갑달라 손네 근히 끄리기 잘보세 강가 하고기 요레 요마레 때 있나이 티 메바티 강가 하고기 요레 강가 통기요 강가 초르기요 강가 주도 제기요 라 드니 데라 근히 근리 디나니 코란페 톱 쳔보 누바 쳔보 잘본다고 드니 망가 베처 드니 다티 나랑 추추 뇨뇨 따따 칸데 시네요 문두 상데 드나 요리 여바 델라트니 베 효첨보 강가 힝킹 강가 하 공킹 강간 통킹 드니 베 강가를 주도 챙긴지 요래라 망가 베처 타지도 메바요 마인데 드니 미요 마레세니 히토요 마레
And so if there is a mind, then it should have a shape or color. But since there is no shape or color, it does not unilaterally exist. And so if there were something in the mind, if it were some sort of a thing, if there is a thing that were a mind, well, it should have a shape or a color. Or even if it didn't have a shape or color, there should be some identifiable thing that doesn't have a shape or color. But we can't see anything that has any shape. We can't see anything that has any color. And if you say, well, it's a thing, but it doesn't have shape or color, we can't find that either. We can't see that anyway. So it's as if the mind is not there. It's like it doesn't exist. And so in this way, we're saying that appearances are mind. Then we're saying that the mind is empty. This is pointing out or recognizing that the mind is empty. It's like the mind doesn't exist. And this is not just proving it through scriptural quotations, nor is it just proving it through logic, but really we actually have to experience it. We have to look at it. We have to see, how is it like? What is it like? And we look, we see, what do we see? We can't see anything. There's nothing that we can see. And that's what there's nothing that we can find. And that is what we mean by saying that it is empty. So it is empty. And then we talk about the emptiness is spontaneously present. So when you say we say, okay, the mind's nothing. There's nothing at all. It can't see anything. It can't feel anything. It can't do anything. Is that how it is? No, it's not like that. It's not just a blank nothingness like that. The mind is able to know everything. It is able to see everything, able to feel, able to experience everything, able to know everything. It's here. However, since this ever-conscious and ever-aware king, or you could also say this all-conscious and all-aware king, the mind is able to know everything. It can feel everything. It can understand and see everything. It knows everything. And because it knows and sees everything, it is like this king. It can see, know, understand, see. And so you can't really say that it doesn't exist. It does not unilaterally not exist. So you can't say that it does not exist.
Tene taje do mepayo mainte se de la kepa kahi kisona non di non su mahurgen tenjung gapa mepar chars ton di ton su mahurgen tenjung gapa mepar non di non su mahurgen yimi zawa tawa imrava non di non su mahurgen yimi zawa tawa ton di ton su mahurgen tenjung gapa mepar chars sunde yorela teni tati semti korang nelu gande yoresena yomare me yendula teni jeya hinkin kanyan tongkin de yore teni Ti Jayan, He, Kanyan, Tong Yendula, Kabadutina, Zani Yomare. The Koran can say it, San Koran can say it. Seni Jetawa Yendo, Tangarang Sugar, Nyams, Nyon, O, Sam did in the Inganduga somni. Tini Kuaga, then Pasit in the Imbanda, Sambandaba Maiba. Uni, Nyams, Nyoni, Tadu Tindin Duga, Tireba, somni, Nyams, Nyonatella, Tini, Tati, Tanda, Noa, Sam, Tomba, Hundu, Tini, Tatindi Imbate. Tina pal karma parang judo jige tin saje chimbe melong no to song yore
the lungde karase tongge lungde da tambore de
long tin non zu ma kyor yen yimi zawata nawati ku no yendal perna tanda glass and double jin tona ton yendala glass korang ngo tombare ngo tomba korang no yendala di glass yeb khadu chacha yo yendala ngo te tombare ton di ton zu ma yu me bi tomba ni di yen yendala glass tong yo Sam Raboji, Sam did that and told you till Zani, your married me Yendola Koran Kanga train tong he Kanga Segi or then Sam Koran train tong he Kanga Segi or the he tong train Yendola Koyomare.
So in this way, the mind does not unilaterally not exist. And so here, the mind is not unilaterally something that does not exist. And so this is something that many scholars have said in a quotation that goes something along the lines of, while appearing, the appearance has no basis. While appearance, the appearance has no basis. It's empty. While empty, the empty form appears unceasingly. So while appearing, the appearance has no basis. It's empty. While empty, the empty form appears unceasingly. And so here, when we say that it is, when something appears, like this glass is appearing to us, it appears, we see it, but there's nothing that we can really say is there. It's emptiness. And so it's empty. We can't really find anything there. But at the same time, it does appear to us. There's the appearance that happens. We see it. So it's empty, but even though it's empty, it does not stop. And we can perceive it. And so in the same way, when we look for the nature of our mind, then we can't find it. It's not there. And so there's nothing there. It's empty. But even though it's empty, we we experience it. There are things that appear. It knows everything. It understands everything. And because of interdependence, then it continues to appear to us unceasingly. And so this is how the nature of the mind is. When we look at, well, what is the way the mind is? Then there's nothing that we can find. We can't find it anywhere. But while it is nothing, it can know everything. It can see everything. And it can say, oh, this is what, it can say, I can see this. I can understand this. It knows that. And so it's not, so if we look for it, when we look for it, there's nothing at all that we can find. But it can see at the same time. This is the characteristic of the mind. And so this is the mind just as it is. And this is what we need to come to experience. We might have some sort of an understanding. We might think, oh, it's probably like that. But that's not what we want. What we really need to do is we need to have a real experience of this is the mind. We need to say, that's what it is. We need to have this experience of it. And so in this way, this is how we're talking about all appearances are mind. And then the mind is empty. And then the emptiness is spontaneously present. And so that is what is being taught here. And it's for this reason that the glorious Karmapa Rangjung Dorje proclaimed in his aspiration prayer of the definitive meaning of Mahamudra.
Tene kama parangjung doji ki sauna yepa mai jalwe chong ma si mepa mai khonde kanji ya gandu mai sunju umanam tadar semji chuni to par ho se sonre la tene te ya tanda tene kama parangjung doji ki sauna semte yo rebe se na yo mare yo mepa te kare re se na ngaran so ta matup ne ta mahi ne semte mantongwa re mani paribisi na mare ngaranso da kanani de jalwa zobu sunji chomdin ta cherap tong tuje dan temba ti chung sen tembar truba ngubu trub deba tinde zayo mare sen jirong yin tongba yin ba perna sanji chomdin de ji chung che tongba ni to non tongba ni song ne tongba ni jingwa wala song yo re jalwa zobu sunji chomdin de ji chung zayo mare zai mepa te kari resi na sanji ki manchi ne mazi pa mare korang ngo rang yin tongba yin pa na mazi pa re ta tongba yin du te la ngaran so ga ta choro wala kari yo resi na tongba yin na mepa re mepa yin na chi ha mepa chi go re tene kanya mepa chi go re nongka tongba ndabo chi go re te yin na yo mepa mayin sem te la ta tu mepa resi na mepa mayin 코른데 끈지게 세팅 강가 짜와 생코랑 그 세계요 많고알은 참 둥한 넘버 나 줘봐요 녀모바 몽보지 나 되네 쟁이 동 발치 몽보 세우나요 짜와 생코랑 게 제대게요 야냥이는 데바톱 대와톱 대지던 데 농지 분성 줘봐도 데 베지보청 다 내가 그 지보청 알아서 봐이나요 생코랑 게 세계요 끈지 예세 다 단다 예바 마이 대위 좀 마지 생긴데 다 단다 샘티 예동 카도 공도 용 통주메 비잖아 되네 대타지도 예바 마이 생긴데 다 메바 마이 콘데 근지 예 생긴데 단다 니나도 손나 그히 그리기 잡고 대니 뭔가 봐 셔타지도 메바 용 마이데 시티 짜는 거야 요 말에 강가 그 짜와 코랑 그 제그래 다디 지당 센지넬로데 다 된대지 요래 galdo mai sunju umalam se tatni ngaranso ge tujundo ta tanda ngaranso ge tanda pesha go onto sin chumtong se ge ora ta te tanda nekap somkin tong hirap ndige somno tana mepa yena yepa yengu ba mepa yepa yen merungwa yepa maina mepa yin merungwa ta yami ni te pe te yinna te yimba ta dana nduk sena nguni yo go ba jil dana mnduk sena mepa yin go ba jil ma to te ni nyom do chopa ji yung yo mare te yina yang sanje nelu te hepe ka so la te yepa main pa to mepa main pa ni te ngawa mare teni me yendola tene he nam he patan 통하다 train to be que he could get jaboti yepateta que he could get jaboti ye yendala kondo yo menebe toni imbatini soundun jubati nyamdo yepati umalonde 타당 tarwa 타들 senji chuni de kanri yore sina deta yepen 타동 tarwa to mepen 타동 tarwa tindeji yore te yapoji to par hyo so no memam jabar.
So this is said as the third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje said in his aspiration prayer of Mahamudra. And here, actually, I'm going to make a comment on the translation. Often, almost always it's translated as, it is not existent since even the Buddhas, and it is not non-existent since the Bases. And that you all know that. I'm sorry. You could also say, it's not something, even Buddhas do not see it. Not nothing. It's the base of samsara and nirvana. So it's not something, even the Buddhas cannot see it. Not nothing, it's the base of samsara and nirvana. This is not a contradiction, but the middle way of unity. May we realize the nature of mind, free from extremes. And so when we say it's not something, even Buddhas cannot see it. What the Buddha, what the third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje is saying is, if we look to say, well, is the mind something? Well, no, it's not. It's not something. We can't find it. If we look for it, we can't find it. And is that because we're just ignorant, we don't know how to look, we can't find it? That's what it is? No, it's not that. We can't find it, and even the Buddhas cannot see it. So even the victorious ones, the Buddhas, the complete and perfect Buddhas, who are wise and wonderful and know everything, even they cannot find anything that is proven to be a thing. They cannot find anything that's the mind. It is because the mind is emptiness. And so this is what the Buddha's taught. When the Buddha taught about emptiness, he taught about outer emptiness, inner emptiness, and all the different types of emptiness. And the reason he taught about this is this is something where it's not a case of just the Buddhas don't know, or the Buddhas can't see. That's not how it is. The reason it is not something is because the essence of it is empty. It is empty. So now, when we think about it, okay, it's not something. So it's not something, then it's got to be nothing. That's the way we normally feel about it. And if it's nothing, then it can't be anything at all. It's just nothingness, blankness, voidness. It's like empty space. But it's not like that either. It's not nothing. Not nothing. So, well, is it just nothing? Well, no, it's not. It's like the basis of samsara nirvana. So the basis, the root of everything is our mind. When we wander in samsara, when we experience suffering, when the disturbing emotions happen, when we have all the problems and difficulties arise, all of that comes out of the root of our mind. So it's also when we attain nirvana, when we're happy, when we have all the wealth and possessions and everything we need and everything is great, then at that time, whether it is the permanent or the temporary happiness, it's just the mind itself. It's nothing other than the mind itself. And so, but here, if we if we think about it, well then, it's not nothing. So here, is it some? But if it's not nothing, then it must be something, and it's got to have this some sort of a shape or a color to it. But we can't find it. So, and when we say that, so here when we're saying it's not something, okay, actually now I know where I am. I'm going to go back just a little bit. Okay, so in the line that says not something, even the victors cannot see it. That is saying the same thing as this line here in Khenpo Gangshar's text, where it says that if it were something, then it should at least have a shape and color. Since there is no shape or color, it does not unilaterally exist. So you can't. That's saying that line. And then when it says it is not nothing, it's the base of samsara and nirvana, then that is the same as where it is saying, however, since this ever-conscious and ever-aware king is unceasing, it does not unilaterally not exist. So that is the same meaning. And so that is the way the essence of the mind is. That is what the essence of our mind is like. Now, when we think about it, it seems, are these a contradiction? Well, it says here, this is not a contradiction, but the middle way of unity. So normally when we are like being scholars, studying books, we think, okay, when you have something that is something, you have a phenomenon, it can either be something or it can be nothing. And if it's not something, it's got to be nothing. If it's not nothing, then it's got to be something. They're like mutually exclusive, and there can't be any third alternative. So if it's nothing, then it's nothing, and it's not something. And if it's something, and it's not nothing. If it's not something, it's nothing. If it's not nothing, it's something. It's got to be one of those two. There's no other way that it can be. It can be. But here, actually, it's not like that. But here, we normally think that there's no way that these two can come together. But our mind is not like that. Our mind can know. It's clear, it can know. But at the same time, if we look, where is it? We can't find it anywhere. And so it's not something in that way, but it's still knowing, it's not stopped. And so it's not nothing either. And these two aren't contradictory. They go together. And so at the same time that it doesn't exist, it knows. It can see. It can understand. And so it is the all-knowing and ever-conscious king. But if we look to try to find it, where is it? We can't find it anywhere, and so it is empty. These two are brought together, they are unified, and this is the middle way. This is the nature of the mind, and so may we realize this nature of mind free from extremes. And so this is the nature of the mind that is not falling to the extreme of nothing, not falling to the extreme of something.
Tene chi sumbatar lakpe te yin chi pendatai jegam chu ngundu rinpa zo so se ta te la jerdo kasin shuba yendo pendatai jegam tong kusulai yogam namba ni yebe nang pendatai jegam te ta chi pa te na tene jipag tachi sepa rabu che la kogi yore te uni jipag tachi sepa yo mayin ba tene semte kawado yapo tseje ne semte rangi madu pala yung ngui sen semte rangi madu yendo la tene nongwa namba naso ba hi tatanda salcha yi hi jingo wate manga pa yin ba ya hi tupe tati nyamnyong jila je persepa te la tene ta pende tai jegam sungi yore la tene te pende tai jegam te tupa re.
And so it says, the explanation up to this point completes the preliminary teachings on the analytic meditation of Pandita. And so here now as we talked about yesterday, there are the two main parts of the instruction. There's the analytic meditation of the Pandita and the resting meditation of the Kusulu. And so this, up to this point, completes the analytic meditation of the Pandita. Now, if we look at this analytic meditation of a Pandita from afar, it really seems like it's probably analyzing through logic, through inference, but it is not analyzing through inference. Really, it is actually looking to see, where is the mind? And by looking at where is the mind, we can really come to see that the mind cannot, by its nature, cannot be established. We can know this. So at the same time that it cannot be established, it also appears. And so this, it has the aspect its essence of being clear wisdom is unceasing. And this is something that we can really experience. And so it is really developing this experience is what this analytic meditation of the Pandita is all about. And so that is enough for this morning. Yeah, that's enough for this morning. Now we'll do some meditation. To